Ladies and gentlemen, I direct your attention to the left. The P-3 aircraft has been tasked to seek out and destroy an enemy submarine now lurking someplace on Moffett Field. Piloted by your flight demonstration team, the 1987 P-3 Orion is now beginning its takeoff roll.
Rotate.
Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the runway, Lieutenant Commander Alexander will roll the aircraft into a 70-degree angle of bank turn to the left. Then, pulling back on the yoke, he will demonstrate the P-3's exceptional climb performance as it ascends to its en route altitude.
There you go, hold it nice. There's your cube, a little wide on the cube.
In this 7,000 foot per minute climb, the flight crew is experiencing 3 times the normal pull of gravity.
Hey, there's 800, 900, 1,000 feet, 1,200, airspeed's 175, pushing over. Gone.
P-3s have been operated at altitudes in excess of 40,000 feet and routinely operate as low as 200 feet during active prosecution of enemy submarines. The P-3's Allison turboprop engines develop over 18,000 shaft horsepower. They enable the P-3 to transit long distances quickly and remain airborne much longer than turbojet aircraft. The Orion's maximum speed at sea level is 482 miles per hour, and it is able to remain airborne without refueling in excess of 17 hours. To demonstrate the high-speed dash capability of the P-3 during its en route transit, Lieutenant Commander Alexander will call for military power when out of his turn and perform a low-altitude high-speed pass.
700. Good lineup. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. It's going to be nice. Airspeed 200. Power up. You're at 500 feet. Airspeed 220, 400 feet. Airspeed 230. Airspeed 240. 250. Altitude 250. Airspeed 260. Airspeed 270.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the right, at more than 325 miles per hour, the world's fastest turboprop aircraft.
90, power back.
Lieutenant Commander Alexander now reduces his power and rolls into a 70-degree angle of bank turn to the right, then back to the left, demonstrating the P-3's high degree of maneuverability at high airspeed.
Altitude 300. 350. 400 feet. 450. 500 feet. Flaps coming to approach. Need to wrap it up. You got lots of units. Lots of units. Okay. Flaps, land. Stand by for land. There's the speed. Coming down.
Another characteristic of the P-3's tremendous versatility is its slow flight capability. With the landing gear and flaps extended, the pilot will slow from a high-speed dash to a speed of approximately 120 miles per hour, demonstrating the needed speed control required by all air crews for low-altitude anti-submarine warfare.
Got 138 knots. Slow. Yeah, we're a little bit light. Lighter today. Got 230 feet. I just told it. 130 knots.
From the left, at 120 miles per hour, the P-3C Update 3.
Okay, bring power on up, Chief. 120 knots. Holding at 120. Holding at 120. Altitude's good. 125 knots. Normal max power. Coming up.
The aircraft has now arrived on station and will begin its passive search for that enemy submarine lurking here on Moffett Field. The crew will deploy a pattern of floating sonobuoys which will listen for the submarine as it attempts to evade the P-3. The sonobuoy field may cover an area of several hundred square miles during open ocean search. The flight crew's highly trained sensor operators, in conjunction with the tactical coordinator, or TACO, will progressively narrow down the area of probability using the onboard electronic equipment and computer systems. Having received word from their operational commander to remain airborne for as long as possible, the flight crew has elected to loiter 2 of its engines for fuel conservation. As they pass abeam the grandstand, please look carefully at the number 1 and 4 engines as they are secured by Flight Engineer Ron Miller. If you watch carefully, you will see the exhaust trail from the outboard engines disappear, indicating the flight engineer has initiated the feathering sequence by shutting off fuel to the engine. Shortly afterward, you will see the propeller stop, its blades move perpendicular to the wing. As Lieutenant Dickinson and Senior Chief Sontenot complete the loiter shutdown checklist, Lieutenant Commander Alexander will roll the aircraft into his left turn and crew begins its search for that enemy submarine. As you can see, the feathering of two engines has little effect on the aircraft's maneuverability while increasing its endurance. The co-pilot, Lieutenant Dickinson, has just received word from the aircraft sensor operators that the enemy submarine has been detected. In order to minimize travel time to its position, the flight crew has elected to restart their number 1 and 4 engines. Please take note of outboard engines 1 and 4 as flight engineer Charlie Sontenot and Ron Miller perform the in-flight restart from the left. With 4 engines online, Lieutenant Dickinson selects maneuver flaps and the P-3 arrives over the submarine's suspected position. The Sensor 3 operator switches on the magnetic anomaly detector or MAD system. MAD is a sensor in the pointed tail section of the aircraft which is sensitive to disturbances in the Earth's magnetic field caused by the presence of a submarine. Lieutenant Commander Alexander turns the aircraft into a figure-8 pattern in order to shorten the revisit time of the MAD sensor and increase its effectiveness. Ladies and gentlemen, please be reminded that overwater low-altitude maneuvering of the type you are seeing today is standard practice for all P-3 flight crews and is necessary for the successful completion of their mission. When used in conjunction with the previously deployed sonobuoys, the MAD system can provide the aircrew with a pinpoint fix of the submarine's position. The crew is now evaluating the target's movements and classifying it by type and potential threat. Yes, the sensor operators have classified this target as a hostile ballistic missile submarine. Indications are it is in the process of launching a ballistic missile against a city, U.S. city. The crew quickly goes to battle condition 1 and the aircraft is ready for attack. The P-3's armament consists of harpoon missiles, bombs, mines, and torpedoes. The TACO has selected air-to-surface bombs for this attack. Lieutenant Commander Alexander maneuvers the aircraft for a weapons drop. After a pass around Hangar 3, the aircraft will emerge in the attack configuration with the bomb bay doors open. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the first thing an enemy submarine commander would see in his periscope.
And Jim, we're going to get some crowd reaction after this one.
You're coming down.
Today's scenario is practiced every day by P-3 crews around the world in order to maintain maximum fleet readiness. It is our sincere hope that these tactics and weapon systems are never used in real life but remain as effective deterrents to war. The P-3 aircraft, both in the United States Navy and our foreign allies, are in operation 24 hours a day, 365 days a year in pursuit of that goal.
There's the Libby scan over there at 12 o'clock. How am I looking? Looking good. Just keep coming around. Right over the McDonald's now. McDonald's is a good 90. You're 135 knots. Nice 40 degrees angle of bank. It's holding nicely. The McDonald's makes a real good 90.
Upon his arrival to the airport, the pilots will demonstrate the short-fill landing capability of the P-3 Orion. In this demonstration, Lieutenant Commander Alexander will pull back on the yoke at touchdown and put the aircraft propellers into reverse while the nose wheel is still off the runway. This will enable them to significantly reduce their ground roll distance. The P-3 can stop in less than 1,000 feet and take off in 1,200 if required. Ladies and gentlemen, I direct your attention to the P3 as it demonstrates its thank you for you being here at Moffett Field. The P3 curtsy.
I'm Lieutenant John Flanagan.
Lieutenant John Woodey.
It's a real pleasure to be here at Moffett for the 87 show to bring you the true stud airplane in the fleet, the Tomcat from VF 124.
Today we will demonstrate the Tomcat's superior speed, agility, power, turning ability, acceleration, and climb capability, which enabled it to employ its weapon system and consistently outperform its opponents. The Tomcat has been cleared for takeoff and is taxiing onto the runway. Shortly, Lieutenant Commander Clark will run the engines up, carefully check the engine instruments and controls, light the afterburners, and begin the takeoff roll. Geometry wing enabled the F-14 to fly at Mach 2 speeds and still slow to normal carrier approach velocity of 125 miles per hour will now be shown in the fully swept position. As our crew sets up for the next maneuver and re-enters from the right, watch as the aircraft rolls into 90 degrees angle of bank and establishes a 0G ballistic arc down the flight line. Now from the right, the knife edge pass. Commander Clark and Lieutenant Deppy have completed a high G reversal and are coming back to the flight line in order to demonstrate the inverted flight capability of the aircraft. Let's watch as Lieutenant Commander Clark rolls the aircraft upside down to establish the inverted position. Ladies and gentlemen, from the left, the inverted pass. Next, the Tomcat will return at 320 miles per hour and execute a maximum performance 360-degree turn, demonstrating the superior turning capability that enables it to outmaneuver and defeat its opponents in aerial combat. The turn radius you will witness is approximately 500 feet. Throughout the turn, our crew will be experiencing 6 times the pull of gravity, which is well within the maximum limits of the airframe at any time. On completion of the turn, this excess capability will be demonstrated by executing a vertical reversal directly out of the high-performance turn. Following the split S maneuver, the F-14 will execute a speed pass in the very high subsonic engine. The F-14 is once again approaching from the right. This time our crew will demonstrate the precise roll capability of the aircraft. Let's watch as the Tomcat rolls 360 degrees while hesitating after each 90-degree roll segment. From the right, the 400 mile per hour 4-point hesitation roll. Now from the left at 400 miles per hour, the 4-point hesitation roll. Our crew is now slowing their aircraft to demonstrate the wide speed range through which the F-14 is capable. If you watch carefully, you will see that the landing gear is down along with the flaps and resting hook. This is a configuration with the wings all the way forward at 20 degrees of wing sweep, in which the aircraft routinely flies in order to land aboard our carriers at sea. Following the slow pass, Lieutenant Commander Clark will once again select afterburner and wave off the approach while demonstrating the excess power margin the Tomcat enjoys in this configuration. You should get a good close-up view of the huge afterburning turbofan engines as our crew turns away from the flight line and sets up for the final maneuver. Approach for a tuck-under brake. This is a modification of the maneuver every carrier aviation pilot must perform to enter the landing pattern for an aircraft carrier. Our crew will approach at low altitude, climb the aircraft to 400 feet, and crisply roll the F-14 270 degrees and enter the traffic pattern for a simulated carrier approach and landing. The Tomcat is equipped with a sophisticated braking system which, coupled with its slow approach speed, allow it to come to a stop in as little as 2,100 feet of ground roll. Entering from the right, the tuck-under brake. The F-14 is manned by a crew of two, the pilot and the radar intercept officer, referred to as the RIO. The pilot flies the airplane while the RIO manages the weapon system, navigation, communications, and electronic warfare equipment, as well as assists with co-pilot duties. The high performance capability of the Tomcat is largely due to the enormous thrust of the engines and the aerodynamic advantages which stem from the variable geometry sweeping wings and large flight control surfaces. For example, the pitch-producing flight control surfaces are the horizontal tails, or stabilators, which are coincidentally almost exactly the same size as the wings of an A-4 Skyhawk. final salute to all the good folks in attendance here today. Our Tomcat will taxi directly before you and bow. If you watch closely, our crew will also flip the spoilers and wave goodbye.
The type of aircraft that you see taxiing out now, the Quiet Short-Haul Research Aircraft, or QSRA as we call it for short, is a proof of concept research aircraft that resulted from many years of conceptual design and wind tunnel studies and flight simulation work to develop flight control systems for advanced aircraft. This first takeoff will be followed by a spiral climbing departure, which would be a typical type of maneuver used for noise abatement at civil airports, or in the case of the military, to keep the aircraft over a secured field site while climbing to altitude. You'll notice that when you can actually see the top edge of the wing, where the exhaust flow from the engines is occurring, you'll hear the most noise. As the airplane now circles around and you can see the lower surface of the wing, you'll notice that it is considerably quieter. This is the shielding effect of the upper surface blowing powered lift concept being used on the QSRA. This is where part of the quiet comes into play. Of course, no jet transport would ever be completely silent, but as you can see, this is considerably quieter than most aircraft. And of course, when you're comparing to the F-14 we just saw fly, it's very much quieter. Gordon is now taking the airplane out to a procedure turn to come back across the air show line in what we refer to as our high-speed pass. This airplane was developed as a slow-speed research aircraft and was not designed itself to go fast. So the speed that you see here today is only about 190 knots or 225 miles per hour. But as I mentioned before, this type of technology, when applied to a commercial transport or a military transport type aircraft, could have cruise speeds in the area of 7 to 8/10 Mach number, the same as other conventional transports. And you will notice as the airplane goes by the quietness. Gordon now pulls the airplane up into the climb prior to demonstrating our first landing. During this climb, he's slowing the airplane down, initially to about 80 knots, and then as he turns on to final, he'll be slowing the airplane to 65 knots. During this maneuver, we are demonstrating the capability of a very steep landing approach path. By using the flight controls on the wing, referred to as spoilers, we are able to modulate the amount of lift that the wing generates very simply. During the initial segment of this landing approach, the airplane is flying at about a 17-degree flight path angle. When about 200 feet above the ground, the spoilers will be retracted by the pilot and the flight path will shallow out to about 6 degrees to the landing. The aim point that Gordon is using for this landing is the checkerboard red and white building between the two runways. Once he does touch down, you'll see how short a distance it takes to come to a full stop. We will now make a second takeoff, this time with a straight-out climbing departure, followed by a turn to the downwind leg. The secret of this type of concept is that we are using the engine's exhaust over the upper surface of the wing to augment the amount of lift that the wing itself can generate. Therefore, we can fly this aircraft at very low air speeds and thus require very short runways for both takeoff and landing. I might comment that during this entire flight demonstration that we do with the QSRA, we are using the normal commercial safety margins which you would normally expect in airline flight. If we were at any time during this demonstration to lose an engine, there would be no problem completing the demonstration, and you would not even be aware of the fact that it had happened. We are not pushing the aircraft anywhere near its limits throughout this entire demonstration. I'd like to take a moment to thank our crew chief, Lee Mounts, who has been doing a wonderful job of getting the airplane prepared for the flights each day, and to his assistants, Rich Young, and today Jim Lesko, who's also helping out. I'd like to thank our inspector, Mr. Dave Walton, and our aircraft manager, Joe Eppel, as well. This series of maneuvers you're about to see now are a figure 8 to show the roll rate characteristics of the aircraft and also the ability to turn very tightly, about a 1,000-foot diameter circle. This shows the maneuverability of this type of aircraft, quite amazing for an aircraft of this size. And we're not pulling anywhere near the type of G-loads that something like the F-14 does to do this tight turn. If you were a passenger in this airplane, you would not feel that much different than if you were riding a 727 or a 737 or whatever. This type of technology, as shown by the QSRA, can be used for aircraft anywhere from the size of a small business jet on up to the size of something as large as a C-5A. It does not require any special type of engine development. They're normal turbofan engines, which are very efficient and which give very good cruise capabilities. And we now are turning for our final landing, which will be a normal short field landing, not two-segment approach this time. The aim point is approximately where the taxiway intersects the runway. Those of us who have been associated with this aircraft and other research aircraft here at NASA Ames Research Center are very, very proud to be able to show off some of the types of things that we've been doing over the years. We do have a display on the northwest end of the display ramp, and in fact the QSRA will be returning to that display for your static inspection this afternoon. We have other aircraft there as well, and we certainly welcome you to come up and see us.
As you have just seen, the QSRA is a truly innovative concept in jet technology. In order to appreciate its flying characteristics, let's go to the cockpit where we've reserved a seat for you.
Okay, we're awaiting our takeoff clearance. Cleared for takeoff. Accelerating down the runway. Rotate. Go into a steep right bank, 45 degrees, for a spiraling climbing turn. The climbing spiral turn will take us up to about 1,000 feet. Ending the top of our spiral turn, we'll be ready to level out at about 1,000 feet. Flaps up. Accelerating on out to about 140 knots. Once we get to 140 knots and somewhere near the north end of the field, we'll start a left turn for our high-speed pass southbound over the runway. Rolling into our left turn, diving down to 200 foot above the field. We'll accelerate to 190 knots indicated, which is the red line of the aircraft because of the fixed gear. Accelerating. Okay, high-speed pass down the runway, north to south. In front of show center, we'll execute a climbing left turn. Here we are, pulling up. Climbing left turn to the downwind leg for a very steep approach. The outboard flaps are going down. Jim is standing by for the USB flaps. USB flaps down. Spoilers full. Stability augmentation system on the pitch axis. Making our right turn in for approximately a 20-degree gamma approach to the runway in front of show central. This gives us approximately a 2,000 foot per minute sink rate, which would be way too excessive to attempt a flare out of. So that at about 200 feet, Jim will retract the spoilers to decrease our sink rate to the order of something of 1,000 feet per minute. Standing by on the spoilers to retract them. Retract spoilers. Modulating power to come in for a smooth landing in front of show central. We'll come to a full stop landing, which will require approximately 300 or 400 foot of ground roll. Modulating thrust to control the sink rate for a smooth landing. Touchdown. Full spoilers, full anti-skid brake.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's direct our attention high and coming in from behind us. Chuck Lisher, Barney Register, and Frank Sanders. Ladies and gentlemen, Team America. The airplanes they're flying are capable of an airspeed of over 300 miles per hour, and they cruise at a normal speed of 200 miles per hour. Fully instrumented and fully aerobatic. The CF-260 Marchetti. They're actually production airplanes. They're designed for military and civilian use. They are built in Italy, but they are used mostly, they do have mostly American parts in them. The engines, propellers, wheels, brakes, electronics, instruments, and most of the nuts, bolts, and rivets are American. And now let's go live to the cockpit and hear Chuck Lisher call the formation of the brake. Get the cameras ready.
Brake, brake, now. Okay, now. Vertical, now. Kicking, now.
That was the hammerhead turnaround just before the airplane is ready to quit flying. Full rudder comes in to bring it back down for a turnaround. Let's watch now for the cross.
Ready, brake, now.
That's Barney Frank in the number 2 and 3 airplanes.
Smoke on and point for the Marchetti box. Smoke off.
Let's make that Chuck and Barney. This is Frank coming in for the Bach maneuver. You'll see Frank performing a series of snap rolls, and these are not rapid aileron rolls, but in essence it is a form of a spin. A horizontal auto-rotation is the technical term.
And 3's pulling vertical for the turnaround.
Frank rolls the airplane upside down. He'll be coming back inverted now from our right to our left. Chuck and Barney maneuvering straight ahead. They'll be coming toward us in just a second. Get the cameras ready, folks, for their maneuver.
There's right there. Okay.
Now this is dedicated to all the ladies in the audience. Straight ahead, ladies and gentlemen. Chuck and Barney.
Ready? Break. Now. Horizon now. Off. Off now.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. A beautiful heart in the California sky for all the ladies here. And now, ladies only. Ladies only now. Was that an ooh? Ladies, how many think that was an ah? And ladies, how many think it was a wow? All right, coming in from the left, Frank Saunders for the maneuver called the top hat.
Okay, I'm at the end of the runway, 90 degrees to go. I got you.
Chuck and Barney now set up for a maneuver called the rudder wiggle. Watch this one.
Ready? Break. Now. 1, 2, 3.
They follow the rudder wiggle with a 1/2 Q and 8 on either end of the field. That's 5/8 of a loop as they come down the 45-degree down line. Watch them roll the aircraft back to the upright position to cross at Airshow Center.
Vertical turn up is next. Looks good. Break fast now.
And as Chuck and Barney cross at Airshow Center, Frank comes in straight ahead for the vertical roll.
Set up, tally low. Okay, here we go. Coming up for the vertical turn, belly to crowd.
Chuck calls the three airplanes back into the formation to set them up for their next series of maneuvers. Chuck Lisher, who lives in Cameron Park, California, has been flying for over 20 years. Barney Register, living up in Woodland, California, has been flying for over 16 years. And Frank Sanders, who lives down in Chino, California, has been flying for over 30 years.
Okay, we're pitching now. And we're rolling. Back down, rolling right. Vertical turn.
Throughout these maneuvers, they'll be experiencing several G's. That's times the force of gravity. You'll hear us use that throughout the day. The airplanes are capable of positive 9 G's and minus 4.5 G's. Now, I know we have a lot of experienced pilots in the audience, and you know what that is, but for the people who may not know, G's are the force that your body exerts on the ground. If you weigh 150 pounds and are standing still, that's 1 G. But you get in the centrifuge like a fast-turning airplane is, it's about 5 times your body weight would be 5 G's pushing you against the seat. Now, straight ahead, ladies and gentlemen. Here they come, cameras ready. There is only one Team America.
Now.
Right in front of us goes into a loop. Barney and Frank pitching up and doing the roll for their crossing maneuver. Brings the airplane back now into the in-trail formation. Waves his smoke on so the number 2 and 3 will find it easy to join up on him. They'll be getting into the in-trail formation for a maneuver called the double loop rat race. We'll see 2 loops, one performed on the south end of the field and then one performed on the north end of the field as the airplanes do it in trail, a very difficult maneuver to perform. You'll listen to Chuck now as he calls out his entry airspeed and keeps his position and watches for the other 2 airplanes.
There's 200. 210. 220. 230. 235 knots. Pitching for first loop now.
Up over the top. He's got to find the number 2 and the number 3 airplane to make sure it's safe to come back down on the backside as he looks right straight out through the top of the canopy. Down he looks, and there he sees breaking out. It's safe to go through. Remember, this is also called the squirrel cage loop.
200, 210, 220, 225 knots. Pitching second loop now.
Set themselves up for the next maneuver, ladies and gentlemen. Team America is the only civilian act which will be performing here throughout this air show. After the absence of civilian performers for a couple of years, we're certainly delighted to start back in with civilian performers with an act such as this. They're maneuvering out to the north. They'll be coming back around from our left to our right. Their maneuver called the photo pass. We'll get an excellent plan-form view of all 3 airplanes as they come by, so get the cameras ready. This will be a great picture-taking opportunity. We told you about some of our pilots. Frank Sanders also may be familiar to you as the name of a man who has won the Reno Air Races. In 1986, he won it with his beautiful Sea Fury, which he has just completely remodified. And during the time trials there, he also set a qualifying record up there at Reno. Frank Sanders is also active in movie stunt flying. Let's watch now as Team America maneuvers in from our left to our right in their maneuver called the photo pass. If you look very closely as they come by, you'll see each airplane maneuvering for position to maintain that perfect separation they've got. There they are, ladies and gentlemen, Team America.
flaps now. And to us for your end. 95 down. Orange going to full flaps now. One's got 3 green full flaps. Two's got 3 green full flaps. And Breazeal.
Okay, all 3 airplanes reporting the gear is safely down and locked, and now let's watch for a very difficult maneuver to perform with 3 airplanes landing in formation. When they taxi by after their landing roll on the south end, we'll have to give them the big wave. They'll be taxiing to the north and then coming back down and shutting down just to the north of the Blue Angels airplanes. Let's watch now. Chuck maneuvers the formation in for the landing. All 3 airplanes getting ready to touch down, maintaining the same airspeed and the same relative separation. And there we have all 3 airplanes, a safe touchdown on the ground. Down on the south end, give them a nice wave as they come by. We'll wave at them as they come by the north end, and then when they shut them down, we're going to give them a great big Bay Area round of applause when they come out of those airplanes to show them how much we appreciated their performance. As we continue on with Moffett Naval Air Station Air Show 1987, we've got more show to come. How are we doing so far? And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring them out of those cockpits with a great big San Francisco Bay Area round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, Chuck Lisher, Barney Register, Frank Sanders, Team America.
The pilot for today's demonstration is Major Johnny White from Shawmut, Alabama. Major White is a veteran fighter pilot with over 1,400 hours of fighter time in the F-16 aircraft. On your right, you can see Major White as he taxis his aircraft onto the runway in preparation for takeoff. The aircraft is powered by a single Pratt & Whitney F-100 engine, which produces over 25,000 pounds of thrust. That is more power than the entire starting lineup at the Indianapolis 500. On your right, you can see Major White as he begins his takeoff roll. Inverted. As he descends, notice the paint scheme of the Fighting Falcon. Gray colors were specifically developed to provide the F-16 with the best possible camouflage in a variety of backgrounds ranging from bright sky to dull overcast. Repositioning maneuver, Major White will demonstrate the excellent rolling capability of the Fighting Falcon by performing 3 rapid rolls as he passes by. approaches from your right, Major White will demonstrate the extremely tight, high G turning capability of the F-16. At show center, he will bank sharply and perform a 360-degree turn with a radius of less than 1,400 feet. It is this kind of turning ability that gives the F-16 its well-deserved reputation as the most maneuverable fighter in the world today. Major White is now preparing for the impressive spiral climb. Using the tremendous power of the F-16, this maneuver demonstrates the Fighting Falcon's capability to enter an aerial engagement from low altitude and low airspeed. As he approaches show center at less than 1/3 of maximum airspeed, Major White will select maximum afterburner and rotate the nose of the aircraft into a tight climbing turn to over 8,000 feet. Major White has completed the spiral climb. By performing a split S, he will make a descending approach from your left to position his aircraft at 500 feet and 400 miles per hour as he prepares to execute a tactical maneuver first employed in World War I. The Immelman. To graphically demonstrate the F-16's power and maneuverability, Major White will perform 2 Immelmans in succession and do it in less than 6,000 feet. Completing the second Immelman, Major White will roll his F-16 and sharply pull the aircraft straight down as he maneuvers into a demonstration of the fly-by-wire flight control system, a system similar to that used on the space shuttle. This computer-controlled system allows the pilot to obtain optimum performance at very low airspeeds as these maximum performance rolls at less than 170 miles per hour vividly illustrate. Completing the descent, Major White will lower his landing gear in preparation for a slow speed pass. While the F-16 can fly at over twice the speed of sound, it can also be easily flown in the slow flight regime. As he approaches the crowd, Major White will be flying at less than 150 miles per hour. From this slow pass, Major White will raise his landing gear and initiate a pull up into the vertical in preparation for his next maneuver. characteristics of the Fighting Falcon by performing a 4-point roll as he passes show center. Major White is now preparing to perform a maximum vertical climb with aileron rolls. During this maneuver, Major White demonstrates the exceptional power and rolling capability of the Fighting Falcon as he climbs from 500 feet to over 12,000 feet. Major White's now approaching from your right for his final maneuver, a tactical pitch up to landing. As he crosses the runway at 500 feet, Major White will make a rolling pitch up to the downwind leg of the traffic pattern. Ladies and gentlemen, the introduction of the Fighting Falcon into the Air Force's inventory has greatly increased the Tactical Air Command's capabilities to meet its commitments as the Air Force's quick reaction force. It is a vital link in the modernization process as we continue to prepare for the future and represents the Air Force's dedication to ensuring we can meet any challenge from potential adversaries anywhere in the world. Its exceptional maneuvering capability and superior weapon system combine to make the F-16 a key addition to our deterrence and warfighting capability. On behalf of the commander of the Tactical Air Command, I hope you have enjoyed this brief look at the performance of the F-16 Fighting Falcon. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask either myself, Major White, or any of our maintenance support team. We'll be happy to answer you. Thank you.
And as it comes by, give him that great big wave, folks.
There they go.
They'll be exiting the H-53 from 6,000 feet. Let's watch them closely. They'll free fall for about 25 seconds and then open their parachutes at about 4,000 feet. Then they'll pick up speeds in excess of 110 miles per hour as they come toward the Earth. Richard Zimmerman, a veteran of 13 years and over 2,000 jumps in the black, the orange, the red, and the blue parachute. He's from the Sacramento Army Depot. Dave Walker, a pararescue man from the U.S. Air Force for 41st Air Rescue and Recovery Group at Sacramento. 8 years of experience, 1,100 jumps. He is in a black, silver, and burgundy parachute. And, of course, the man who brought the American flag down to us earlier today, he's in the red, white, and blue parachute, of course. That's Tech Sergeant Alan Silver. Kurt Weber from the U.S. Army, 5 years experience, 250 jumps, is in the dark blue, the light blue, and the white parachute.
This particular Harrier that's taxiing out to the line now is one of the early models. It's an AV-8C. It's our pilot proficiency airplane here at NASA Ames. When you take an aircraft with fixed wings and try to get it to operate in a vertical mode like a helicopter, you get in some very interesting control problems. And it is quite a workload for the pilot. Through the research that we're doing with the Harrier, we hope that for future vehicles of this type and more advanced vehicles, that we will be able to provide the database for the aircraft industry to design aircraft which will be not only very safe, but also very simple for the pilots to fly. Jim's running the engine up now to make sure everything's okay prior to his takeoff. And you'll see it requires very little runway. Mach number, and at sea level it can whip along at 630 miles per hour. Jim is now making a turn out to the right and will be turning back into the left 270 degrees to come by the flight line in a high-speed pass of about 500 miles per hour with the aircraft in the clean configuration. And the Harrier is now approaching from the left at 500 miles per hour, folks. Jim will now perform a pull-up with the aircraft and turn around and come back by the crowd again. And you'll notice that the airplane is very maneuverable. And in fact, you can actually use the nozzles and the other power lift devices on the aircraft to enhance its maneuverability. The idea of using part of the engine thrust to augment the way in which the aircraft can take off and land is not the only gain. You also have the gains in maneuverability up and away. You can accelerate the airplane very quickly, and when desired, you can decelerate very quickly. And this can be quite a good tactical mission or method of following up your adversary. The U.S. Marine Corps, which flies the AV-8B Harrier, first took the airplane on, first flight of the AV-8B was made in November of 1981, and not too long after that, the Marine Corps started flying them. The Harrier was originally developed by British Aerospace in the United Kingdom, and later was modified with an advanced wing, both from the standpoint of aerodynamics as well as structure, by the McDonnell Douglas Corporation. The Harrier currently is manufactured both by British Aerospace and by McDonnell Douglas. The aircraft uses a Rolls-Royce Pegasus engine, which puts out about 21,500 pounds of thrust, and the airplane grosses out at about 30,000 pounds maximum weight. There are 4 nozzles on the engine, or on the aircraft, 2 on each side. The forward nozzles are using the fan flow from the engine. The aft nozzles are using the hot core flow. Essentially, this gives you 4 posts to allow the aircraft to hover and to land and take off vertically. As the Harrier now comes back in, at about 100-foot hover height, you'll see some of the maneuverability of the aircraft in hover. Rotate the aircraft about its own axis. And a bow to the crowd to show the pitch axis control. And next, Jim is going to show you how if you went by that parking space you were trying to find, you can back up and try for it again. show the capability of being able to deflect the airplane sideways in a lateral transition move as Jim comes over to his landing site for a vertical landing. As you can see, the airplane is very stable. Even under these wind conditions we have here today, Jim is able to hold the airplane over his selected landing location. And there, folks, you have the AV-8 Harrier. Very impressive airplane. I'd like to thank the folks today, the crew chief Bruce Fox, assistant crew chief Gary Halleck, the inspector Ed Haas, and the aircraft manager Alan Page for getting the airplane ready for your presentation and your pleasure today. I thank you very much for your attention, and on behalf of NASA's Ames Research Center, I thank you for your interest in all the things we've been doing here over the years. I'll turn the mic back over to Hal. Hal?
Dennis, thank you very much. We're going to have the airplane come back from our right to our left in front of the crowd. We'll be able to give him once again a nice wave for that performance he did for us today, and he'll be going up to the north end and taxiing up there and shutting down.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Your United States Navy Flight Demonstration Squadron takes pleasure in performing for you this, our 26th flight demonstration of the 1987 season. This is Lieutenant Cliff Skelton, narrator for the Blue Angels. Since 1946, the Blue Angels have had the rare privilege of demonstrating to the American public the precision techniques of naval aviation, hoping to inspire our young men and women to pursue careers in the United States Navy and Marine Corps. The maneuvers you will see demonstrated here this afternoon are coordinated tactical techniques developed by Navy and Marine pilots, both in peacetime training and actual combat. These maneuvers are neither stunts nor daring feats, but refinements of basic techniques taught to every prospective naval aviator. Here at Moffett Naval Air Station, we will be demonstrating these maneuvers at a very low altitude in traditional Blue Angel formation so that you may see and take pride in the precise fashion in which your Navy and Marine Corps pilots are trained to fly. Now, direct your attention to the ramp before us. Observe the military manner in which the 6 demonstration pilots approach their aircraft and are saluted by their crew chiefs. Ladies and gentlemen, Flying Blue Angel number 1, the commanding officer and flight leader of the Blue Angels from Portland, North Dakota, Commander Gil Rude. Flying Blue Angel number 2, the right wingman, our Marine Corps representative from Severna Park, Maryland, Captain Mark Bircher. Flying Blue Angel number 3, the left wingman from Pelham, Georgia, Lieutenant Commander Donnie Cochran. Flying Blue Angel number 4, the slot pilot from Dallas, Texas, Lieutenant Commander Pat Walsh. Flying Blue Angel number 5, the lead solo from Savannah, Georgia, Lieutenant Commander David Anderson. Flying Blue Angel number 6, the opposing solo from Mount Dora, Florida, Lieutenant Wayne Molnar. Blue Angels taxi in tight formation, just as we will see them perform here this afternoon. For this degree of precision has become a trademark of the Blue Angels since first established 41 years ago. 16 officers and 104 enlisted personnel comprise the Navy Flight Demonstration Squadron. 4 of these pilots fly in the tight diamond formation, while 2 fly as solos, the maximum performance demonstrators. The 7th pilot is a narrator for the flight demonstration, as well as the pilot for the 3 news media representatives we normally fly at each show site. Blue Angel number 8, Lieutenant Mike Campbell from Weston, Massachusetts, is a Squadron Naval Flight Officer and Events Coordinator. Lieutenant Commander Jim Anderson, our Maintenance Officer from Chicago, Illinois, is responsible for the men, women, and equipment that keep our aircraft in the air. From Atlanta, Georgia, the Blue Angel Flight Surgeon is Lieutenant Wes Robinson. From Ocean Beach, California, our Public Affairs Officer is Lieutenant Commander Doug Hawking. And our General Electric Engine Representative is Mr. Todd Perzanowski from Old Saybrook, Connecticut. From the right, the Blue Angel Diamond is rolling. As they pass before us, you will notice the smoke is not visible while the aircraft are in afterburner. As the airspeed increases, the pilots experience 4 times the pull of gravity required to round out the backside of this looping maneuver. To the right, Blue Angel number 5 is rolling. He will accelerate to 170 miles per hour and climb to an altitude of 50 feet. He will then roll his aircraft 360 degrees with the landing gear extended. The dirty roll on takeoff. The landing gear. He rolls his aircraft 360 degrees and continues to accelerate to 300 miles per hour. Pulling back on the stick, he climbs straight up into the vertical. Let's watch as he goes over the top at an altitude of 3,000 feet and an airspeed of 150 miles per hour. On his back now, completing the 1/2 Cubanade on takeoff, Lieutenant Mullner will pass before us and exit the flight line to the right. The Diamond will momentarily be making its approach to the flight line from the right. In relatively slow speed flight, they will give you an opportunity to take a close look at that very minimum 36-inch wingtip to canopy separation that exists between these 4 aircraft. From the right, the Blue Angel Diamond, 1987. Approaching center point, Lieutenant Commander Anderson and Lieutenant Mullner will roll their aircraft into a 90-degree angle of bank and push forward on the stick as they perform the opposing knife edge pass. At 400 miles per hour, the diamond roll. All four aircraft rolling as one in this graceful 360-degree rolling maneuver. Over the top, you get a planform view of that tight Blue Angel diamond. Opposing inverted pass. In order to demonstrate the slow speed handling characteristics of these F-18s, Commander Root has called for the extension of the landing gear as they perform a maneuver attempted by no other jet flight demonstration team in the world today. The Diamond Dirty Loop. Lieutenant Molnar from the right, and Lieutenant Commander Anderson from behind the spectator area. Let's watch as Lieutenant Molnar performs a maximum performance, minimum radius afterburner turn. And Lieutenant Commander Anderson climbs his aircraft straight up into the vertical to demonstrate the vertical climb and roll capabilities of these McDonnell Douglas F-18 Hornets. Demonstrating the left echelon roll. This is a particularly difficult maneuver, especially for Lieutenant Commander Pat Walsh in Blue Angel number 4. As they slide from left echelon to a trail position and back into the traditional Blue Angel Diamond. To the left, Lieutenant Commander Anderson and Lieutenant Molnar have established a mirror image formation. But look carefully, for both aircraft are in the carrier landing configuration as they approach for a maneuver we call the Fortis. This time, however, you should notice one significant modification. While Blue Angels 2, 3, and 4 still maintain that minimum wingtip to canopy separation, the flight leader is upside down. The Blue Angel Single Farvel 1987. Behind the spectator area, Blue Angels 5 and 6 are approaching in a line abreast formation at 400 miles per hour. Approaching center point, they will perform a maneuver to demonstrate the turn radius of these F-18s. The opposing minimum radius turn. Let's watch as both pilots now sustain 6 times the pull of gravity required to cross their aircraft directly over center point. Diamond pilots are now stacked down and aft on a 45-degree bearing line, establishing a right echelon formation. From the right, at 350 miles per hour, the Blue Angel Echelon Parade. Approaching center point, they will roll their aircraft 270 degrees and cross over center point with minimum separation. Ladies and gentlemen, the tuck-away cross. To the left, the 4 Diamond pilots are still maintaining that right echelon formation. Approaching center point, Commander Rude will commence a climb and a 360-degree rolling maneuver. After 270 degrees of roll, they will smoothly shift the formation back into the traditional Blue Angel Diamond. This is the changeover roll, a precise transition from echelon against the beautiful California sky. Changeover roll complete to the right. Let's watch as they climb into the vertical to set up for their next maneuver, the line abreast loop. Approaching center point, they will climb straight up into the vertical, experiencing heavy G as the airspeed dissipates. Still maintaining minimum separation, the pilots must now align themselves by looking 90 degrees from their flight path toward Commander Rude's aircraft. Over the top at 7,000 feet, the power is eased as the aircraft round out the backside of this 5-plane line abreast loop. Commander Rude calls for another formation change prior to detaching Blue Angel number 5. In order to demonstrate the tactical roll rate of these McDonnell Douglas FA-18 Hornets. Approaching center point, Lieutenant Commander Anderson will perform a series of maximum stick deflection horizontal rolls. Before us. Approaching center point, he will climb the formation straight up into the vertical. Reaching 90 degrees nose up, the Diamond will split, all 4 aircraft exiting in separate directions. Ladies and gentlemen, the Blue Angel vertical brake. Approaching center point, they will roll their aircraft 360 degrees, pausing after each 90 degrees of roll, and passing over center point in the inverted position. From the left and right, the opposing 4-point hesitation roll. Approaching in left echelon, each pilot will roll his aircraft 270 degrees in ripple fashion, take separation, and rejoin Commander Rude in the diamond formation. Center point. They will roll their aircraft 270 degrees in section. Ladies and gentlemen, the double tuck-over roll. Now, let's watch as Commander Rude calls ready break. Commander Rude is now called for our two solo pilots to join the diamond for the Delta aerobatic portion of our flight demonstration. From the right, at 400 miles per hour, the Delta roll. All 5 wingmen maintaining position on the leader as they roll 360 degrees over center point. As they commence the reversal turn, our two solo pilots will change the formation and now maintain their position on the wings of Lieutenant Commander Walsh in the slot. This shift produces a formation we call the double V. Very shortly, all 6 aircraft will be approaching for the Blue Angel fleur-de-lis. From the left, at 450 miles per hour, the Blue Angel fleur-de-lis. Fleur-de-lis rendezvous complete. The diamond will pass before us and exit the flight line to the right. Watch closely as Commander Rude calls smoke on, ready break. Ladies and gentlemen, the United States Navy Flight Demonstration Squadron represents a time-honored tradition of pride, professionalism, and excellence spanning 76 years of naval aviation. The 1987 team takes a great deal of pride in saluting Navy and Marine pilots, maintenance crews, and support personnel everywhere. On this 4th of July, the Blue Angels are very proud to dedicate our flight demonstration to the men who gave their lives for their country. From the right, in salute to the prisoners of war and those missing in action, the Blue Angels, 1987. One of the most unique demands placed on a naval aviator is that he be able to land his aircraft upon a ship at sea, whether it be a tactical jet, a propeller-driven aircraft, or one of our helicopters. Each requires a special skill that the naval aviator must master. In order to perfect this technique, Navy and Marine pilots spend a great deal of time in the landing pattern practicing carrier approaches. Very shortly, Commander Root and all the demonstration pilots will be performing a carrier approach. Rolling out on final, he makes one last check of the crosswind, one last lineup correction, and adjusts his power to maintain the optimum rate of descent for the proper touchdown point. Six pilots you've been watching perform here this afternoon are but a small part of the Blue Angel team. The men and women in blue uniforms standing before you are members of the elite Blue Angel maintenance crew. Through hard work, many long hours, and unselfish dedication, they have each year for the past 41 years provided us with optimum conditions to fly each of the 100. As the aircraft continue their landing rollout, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce the Blue Angel crew. The maintenance chief is Jack Cregan from Bristol, Vermont. Crew coordinator Chris Schwab from Salamanca, New York. Crew chief number 1, John Graham from Eva Beach, Hawaii. First mech, Donna Black from St. Louis, Missouri. Crew chief number 2, Tom Cooper from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. First mech, Bob Fugate from Ypsilanti, Michigan. Crew chief number 3, Ken Edwards from Bronx, New York. First mech, Todd Daniels from Winston, Connecticut. Crew chief number 4, Larry Ameda from New Bedford, Massachusetts. First mech, Jim Fortner from Fayette, Alabama. Crew chief number 5, Ted Veal from Albuquerque, New Mexico. First mech, Joey Gilbert from Indianapolis, Indiana. Crew chief number 6, Matt Voigt from Fremont, California. First mech, Bob Hyde from Morristown, New Jersey. Our runway alert crew is Randy Anderson from Towanda, Pennsylvania. Roger Elkins from Cincinnati, Ohio. Richard Fortner from Griffith, Indiana. And Todd McKellar from Green Lawn, New York. Ladies and gentlemen, flying Blue Angel number 6, the opposing solo from Mount Dora, Florida, Lieutenant Wayne Muller. Flying Blue Angel number 5, the lead solo from Savannah, Georgia, Lieutenant Commander David Anderson. Flying Blue Angel number 4, the slot pilot from Dallas, Texas, Lieutenant Commander Pat Walsh. Flying Blue Angel number 3, the left wingman from Pelham, Georgia, Lieutenant Commander Donnie Cochran. Flying Blue Angel number 2, the right wingman, our Marine Corps representative from Severna Park, Maryland, Captain Mark Bircher. Flying Blue Angel number 1, the commanding officer and flight leader of the Blue Angels from Portland, North Dakota, Commander Gil Rude. Ladies and gentlemen, representing your United States Navy and Marine Corps, the Blue Angels, 1987.